So we're looking at learning outcome 2, which is understand the key principles and methods of written communication in a business context. So 2.1 is just quite simple, explain the importance to organizations of clear, concise, and complete written communication. So as you can see, we're focusing on written communication today. And then 2M1 is prepare clear, concise, and complete written business communications. So on 2M1, I'll just be talking to you about how to prepare a nice document and what sort of documents are available for written conventions. So there it is, actually.
Is there no distinction question?
There no distinction in this, no merit. It's one merit, no distinction.
Okay.
It's a nice change of pace, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So just for written communications, I've got a chart like this on written communications, and I put one in for verbal communications. Now, verbal doesn't really have much to do with this particular section, but I thought it's nice to put it in just to give you the pros and cons of that as well. So you've got the advantages of written communication is that you've got permanent record. It can be a legal document. It can be sent to multiple people. So if you type up a letter, you can print it out and send it off to people, email a few people at once. It's fantastic for long messages and for official communication. Because if I come to you, Victoria, and I start over the phone, I start saying to you, okay, I want you to do this, 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 and I give you like 10 different tasks to do. You might not be able to note them all down in time, or you might forget something, and you can't go back and double check, can you? So this is the best way.
Yeah.
It provides detailed information, and it ensures that everybody is on the same page and that the same message is being given to them. The disadvantages are that it can take some time to make, and you've got to make sure that your grammar is right, that you've got no errors, and you've actually put the information that you want in it. It's formal. It's not a personal touch. It might not be the best thing for every single employee. So you've got employees that work in different departments at different levels. So you might have to create a different one for your different departments. That'll take more time. It's not confidential because when you've sent it, really, if you send me an email, I could forward it to whoever I want to. So it really isn't confidential. You can't get instant feedback, and once you've released it, once you've sent it, you can't go back and change things on it. So if I make a spelling mistake or any of those things, once it's out there, it's out there. Then you've got verbal communication. Now, the advantage of this is it saves times, and you can just put your information down real quick, and pass it along. You can give detailed clarifications, and say if you give me a set of tasks to do, I can ask you some things at the same time and like, okay, what do you mean about this? Or how should I go about that? Do I need to make a PowerPoint, or do I need to go and create some handouts? What should I do? And you can answer me straight away. It's personal. It is quite effective when you're trying to handle conflict management, because then you can sort out any issues that come up there and then, rather than get it written down and send it backwards and forwards. And it's confidential. You can do it in a private area where nobody else is listening in. So you know that only you and I, we've had this conversation, and that's it. It shouldn't be walking out this room. The disadvantages are that there's no documentation. It's not formal. There can be misunderstanding. So what you might say or what I might say, sometimes depending on what we're like or what our understanding is, we might understand something different. You might be saying something nice to me and I might take it in a wrong way. So it can be misunderstanding. It's not great for long messages or long tasks because you get confused and you've got nothing to go back to. It's ineffective. So when you've got a big audience, it's not very effective for you to be giving information in that way. And again, you don't have a permanent record of it. So that was just the advantages and disadvantages of some written communication, and I threw in verbal communication just to give you an idea of the pros and cons of this. So 2.1 is explain the importance to organizations of clear, concise, and complete written communication. So when we're looking at effective communication, when you're communicating effectively, it actually helps your employees to understand what they're meant to be doing, what their roles are, what their responsibilities are, what targets they need to do, what sort of tasks they need to do on a daily basis. So this is fantastic if you've given your employees, your team members, exactly what's going on, you set clear targets and they know exactly what's going on. Now, clear, concise communication helps you to know about what your expectations are. It helps you to decrease stress, and it helps you to provide direction. And again, it limits any mistakes or any hostility because you know exactly what's been done. Everybody's been given their job. Say if there's a group of us and we've been communicated. So you're my team manager, Victoria, and you've got 5, 6 different people. I'm part of your team member. And you would say, Afsha, this is your job here. You'd say, Jennifer, this is your job. David, this is your job. Abdul, this is your job. So we would all know, because it's all written down and it's clear, what our jobs are. And later on, we're not going to be hostile or have arguments with each other because you've already made it clear on what you're meant to be doing, what I'm meant to be doing, what he and she are meant to be doing.
Okay.
It cuts out any silliness and any mistakes to start off with. Let's go. So, what are the benefits of these written communications? That I've got 10 benefits on here, if I remember correctly. It reduces the chance of misinterpretation of your message. So because you're being clear, so clarity is just to be clear. It gets rid of any ambiguity. So it gets rid of any like, oh, what are we doing? What are we not doing? Gets rid of any confusion. And everybody's on the same page. So they all know, they're aligned about exactly what you're meant to be doing. Now, it sets the precedence for your organizational structure. So it gives you the aims and targets of exactly what you're doing, what you're aiming for. You know that you're working towards your structure, and it lets everybody know what you're actually aiming for. So your co-workers, your business partners, employees will have more trust and confidence in your leadership skills. So when you're being clear and concise, you're going to be able to give a nice clarity of thought. You're going to be able to push your thoughts out and convey them and let them know in a very clear way. Now, I was watching something on the news today. It was about an ambassador of Saudi Arabia was talking about how he wanted to start introducing cultural functions from different countries so that he could have popular bands and movie stars and people coming in because they had a very high culture of one particular group. Now, in that, he kept on going, he did that almost in every sentence, and it really threw your thoughts off. And I know that I do it as well, and a lot of people do when they're trying to gather the thoughts. They try to do it, and it's natural. But when you're on on TV and you don't actually expect that decision, do you? So there's one thing that really, So you've got to be quite, clear. When you're at a work environment, that's different. But when you're making presentation things like they make you seem underconfident, like you're trying to remember what's going on.
Yeah.
My best tip for that is have some notes in your hands so you can go back and write, right, I've done that and I need to do this next.
Yeah.
So, number 4 is your co-workers, business partners, and employees will have more confidence in themselves as well. So if you're told exactly what you're meant to be doing, you're going to work every day knowing what to expect, knowing what your targets are, what you're meant to be meeting, then you're going to be confident, you'll be self-assured because you'll know exactly what you do. But if you turn up for work daily and you know that you've got 3 tasks that you need to do, and then you suddenly get something thrown on you and last minute and say, right, you've got an hour to do this, it's very difficult. It knocks your confidence and you start getting anxious and panicky. So make sure that you've got everything structured when you're in that type of role. Now, this, regardless of whether or not you work in business or, like you said, ultimately you want to work with young people and support them, it's the same thing. If you tell them exactly what's going on, they're going to be happier. If they don't know what's going on, they're going to act out, they're going to not want to work with you, they're going to be really confused and maybe not even show up.
I'm really scared for teenagers, to be honest.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult time for them because, one, you can't find many jobs at the moment. Like when I was 16, 17, I finished high school and I went straight into doing part-time work. But now I've got a nephew who's 16. He's finished his GCSEs and he was just thinking of looking for a little bit of, a part-time job until he goes into college. There's nothing available.
No, there isn't, definitely. I was working, like, basically not legally. There was just a company clearance, so there was, like, money, like, in cash in hand.
Yeah.
So that's why I had a job, but everything else is ridiculous. Absolutely.
The thing is, even with the cash in hand thing, it's fantastic that you were getting paid to do some work, but you're probably getting underpaid and you probably didn't.
No, I was getting $6.50 an hour and I was at 15, so I think it was okay.
That's quite good then. I take it back.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Some people still want me, some places still want to pay me $6.50.
Yeah.
Because I'm under 25 or something.
But do you know what? It doesn't reflect on living wage, sorry. You've got to have a realistic wage so they can actually afford to, go and study or...
That's the minimum age, oh my God, what's wrong with me today? That's the minimum wage for my age.
Yeah.
So any company that can take advantage of that, they do it.
They will do,
I don't know how a 19-year-old can survive on like £200 a month.
No, not at all. And especially if you were living on your own and trying to pay your rent and bills, that would just... No.
That doesn't even go into consideration.
If the wages now actually reflect a living cost, I'm pretty sure that we'd have more independent people around as well, wanting to, actually go out and do other things. But I bet when you're thinking of doing courses or going to university, you're thinking of the cost first, aren't you? About what's it going to cost me or what do I have to do? So it's hard, isn't it?
They're going to give me like £1,000 a while.
Oh, that's good,
I'm so excited for that.
But do you know what? Once you get all your books, you're going to fly through that without even realizing it.
I know, exactly. But well, I'm just excited to go uni.
Do you know what it is? University itself it's a great experience. You're going to love it when you go.
I know it's going to be hard as well. But
yeah, definitely. But do you know what? Seriously, I have had lots of students of different ages with me, and I've worked with like really young children to adults, and you're probably the youngest student that I've worked with on where I am now at 19. But I've got to say, the way you took onto board everything that I spoke about in the last unit, you followed everything the right way, and there was only one tiny little thing that needed corrections. That was just because it got missed out. If that had been put in, you would have been perfectly fine with that as well. And seriously, you did fantastic, and I can see you excelling in the future. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I just noticed something on here. You're very welcome. Have you seen I've done 5 and then I've done 7 there?
Yeah.
We're going to ignore that.
Okay. And I showed my mom the email you sent me. My mom was so proud. She was like, oh, that's so
and she
nice.
should be, you are doing fantastic. Really, I'm proud of you as well.
Thank you so much.
So when you finish your degree, you're going to have to email me to tell me what you decided to do in the end.
I will do. Thank you. Without your volunteer.
Oh no, definitely. Even if I wasn't teaching you, you'd still excel. Seriously, this is all you. It's not got anything to do with it.
No, but definitely me as well. I feel like you're a really good teacher, and I want to wake up every morning and go to this class.
Oh,
it's
thank
not
you.
a headache. Yeah.
That makes me happy as well. So when you're doing information when you're communicating with someone, then make sure that you keep your audience's interest. Don't bore them. Don't give them lengthy explanations. Don't keep giving too much information. And I'm quite bad at this. When I see silence, I try to fill that silence, but silence isn't bad. Sometimes give someone 30, 40 seconds, give them a minute. If it goes longer than that, then try and prompt someone for an answer, but let them think. It helps to create a more knowledgeable workplace. It spreads information and people know exactly what's going on. It saves time and it maximizes your efficiency because you know what's going on. You're not running around or chasing someone trying to find out what you want to do, what's my next task. Because you know when I've completed task 1, I'm going to go straight on to task 2. It helps you to focus. So, you know, when it says don't convolute your ideas with extra words, it just means don't add in too many extra words. Just keep it straight and simple and say, right, this is what we're doing and that's it, and then stop and let them go on. And then the last point is it is easier to point out any flaws or weaknesses, and then it helps you to identify where any improvements need to be made. So it can be difficult to get improvements and get feedback, but when you're communicating with somebody and your staff members or your colleagues or the people you're looking after, they're used to you talking to them and they're comfortable with you, then they will come to you and they'll happily say to you, right, I've got this problem, or I need to work on this area here, or I need to go and do this little bit here. So they will come up, you'll get feedback and you'll be able to know where training needs to happen or where you need to make a bit of an improvement or change the tasks about. So that was 2.1. Are you okay in this section or would you have any questions?
No, it's okay.
Fantastic. So on to 2M1. Now here it just says prepare, clear, concise and complete written business communications. So to answer this, you're just going to be making one of these, a letter or an email when you get into the assignment. But just to give you an idea of how this should be done, I've got some different ideas of written communication and ways that strategies to write them. So we're looking at letters, memos, emails, and writing strategies. So when we have formal and informal business communication, these different conventions we're looking at will give you an idea of how to actually communicate with someone. Because a letter can be formal, but an email can be formal and informal. It can be quite stiff and information loaded, or it can be quite lighthearted and say, hi, how are you? Here's your list of tasks, and, you know, something quite simple. So we've got a little bit of a table here, and I won't go through every single thing, but we've got a section on formal communication and a section on informal. So formal is structured, it's well planned, it's quite rigid, so it's not really flexible. It takes time and it's accurate. And then informal communication can be quite spontaneous, it's unplanned, it's flexible, so you can really go back and forth with each other. It's not official and it's fast. And you can normally have it in office environment, like where you're going to be in the staff room where you're gossiping or rumoring or chattering, one of those things. So we've got letters, memos, and emails. Now these things are what you'll see in work mostly. So you got, do you know what a memo is, by the way?
No.
A memo is just like a letter, but it's tiny, it's short. Just think like a small post-it note or a small piece of paper with just 1 or 2 sentences written on it. So just a small message on printed out for you, and that's it. So it's like a very tiny letter. So these letters, memos, and emails, they often act as what we call a wrapper to technical documents. Now, what we mean is just like a cover, a wrapper, like a overall thing. So these letters, memos, and emails can help you to write out resumes, proposals, and reports. They're sort of like the starting basis of those, and they can be evolved into these things. Excuse me one moment, please. Sorry, Victoria, I'm back. So,
It's okay.
Brilliant. So we're going to be looking at audience now. Depending on your audience, you're going to communicate depending on what they need. So if you've got somebody who is, say, quite technical and you need to give them a lot of information, then you'll probably want to do it more formally and send a formal email or a note to them and say, right, this is what we need to do. Or if, for example, if you were a lawyer and you wanted to communicate with your clients about a house sale, you wouldn't just say, all right, yeah, we'll get it done on this date. You'll send them letters, won't you, that'll outline how much it costs for your services, what the breakdown is, and how long it might take.
Yeah.
If it's just someone that you're talking to give a simple task, like, you know, after you finish this, can you go over there and, you know, man that counter or do this, stock these shelves, then you can just do it verbally. So do it depending on who you need to talk to, who the audience is, and what sort of message you need to give. So if you were giving something, you gave something that had lots of technical things, then you wouldn't do that verbally. You'd want to do it written. Then think about what the purpose of this communication is. Why are you communicating? What do you want to say? And make sure that you're clearly understood. Otherwise, there's no point. You'd have wasted your breath talking. Then letters. So there's this is one of the oldest conventions of written. So and it's quite formal as well. So they're normally addressed to people who can be in another organization or another area. You might want to send a letter to your client, or you might want to send it to somebody, another business, and they always have you signing them off. So right now, you'll have noticed when I signed off your work, I still got my physical signature on it, but I just scanned it and put it in to there. But in a normal physical letter, you'd obviously physically sign it yourself. Then we've got this, and I always say this wrong, ars dictaminis, and I know I'm not saying it right. Now, this is just the art of letter writing. Now, this was called, ars dictaminis is a medieval description of the art of prose, composition, and writing. So it just means in how you write letters. So it's just there to make sure that you're writing your letters in the correct way. So it said that ars dictaminis emphasized the practical application of rhetorical over theoretical considerations, and this practical orientation became increasingly dominant. Now that's really confusing. All this means is that the art of letter writing, how we set our letters up, you know, if you think about a letter right now, what sort of format, when you get a letter, Victoria, what sort of format, just think about the layout of it. Give me an idea of what sort of layout is in a letter.
So like a bank letter.
Mm-hmm.
So I see my name on it. I see the
Yeah.
branch. They start like, it's kind of like an email layout. So they start with hi, and then they put like 2 spaces, and then
And they put the content of what the actual is. So a letter, you'd have, so you're the receiver, so you'd have your name and address. On the other side, it has the sender's name and address, and then it has a date of when they sent it. And then you'd have the dear sir, madam, or dear Victoria, and then you'd have the content of what they want to say to you, and then they'd sign it off. So that's all this means. It's just the way you set something up and the way you do it.
Okay.
And then you got memo conventions. So again, a memo is just a brief written message or a brief report, just something that's been cut down quite short and it's very brief. So it's normally used to communicate within your own organization to your colleagues, or if you've had a meeting and you just want to highlight what you did a meeting about, you might just bullet point the main points and just have that stuck up on your notice board, and this is what we looked at, or this is what we'll be looking at. Email. Now, email is the least formal, but it replaces memos because it's a lot easier for you to get to everyone. Because you don't know if someone's going to walk past that notice board or look on their in tray or whatever and see if actually read that. But with an email, you can set it up so that when somebody opens the email, you can actually see that they've opened it and they've read it and how many times they've actually been in and out of it. And again, it's fantastic if you have grammatical or spelling errors because it normally highlights it so you can fix them before you even send them off. Then you have emails. So, you know, again, this is just an idea of what an email is like, telling you what your password is and so on.
Oh, I'm so sorry about the...
Oh, no, it's okay. No problem.
I live next to a hospital, so...
You probably get used to that then, don't you?
Yeah, no, I don't even think about it anymore.
No, it doesn't bother me, don't worry. So you've got different types of letters and memos, and they can be there to find out about an inquiry, they can be to respond to someone, to give information, to maybe claim something, to say no to something, or maybe to make adjustments and corrections to something that you've already done and say, right, correction to this and so on, I'm going to be doing this instead. And then you have writing strategies. Now I've got 9 of these. Are you okay with what we've been through so far?
I think so.
Brilliant.
If I'm doing my assessment, I'm not sure, I would just call you, but I think I'm sure.
Yeah, you can do. Again, like I said, this one's an easy one to answer. I'm only talking about these things just to tell you how things should be laid out and what type of different written examples are out there. But really, because it's saying prepare, all you've got to do is create a written communication. So the best way to do that is just type out something as if you're giving business information in an email, and that would be it. So a nice, as if you're, you know, passing on tasks or an email to someone about something. So it'll be quite a nice one to answer. Okay. So pay attention to your tone. So always look at your audiences and, you know, make sure. So if you're emailing an expert, be respectful, be friendly, but also be professional. If you're doing a complaint letter, you're going to be firm, formal, you're going to be demanding, but you're not going to say, if you don't give my refund right now, I'm going to come down to your office and I'm going to sort you out. You know, so it's what you say, but not how you say it. So if I was going to say to you, Victoria, well done, that's me saying it in a normal tone, but I could go, Victoria, well done. And you don't even know if I'm actually proud of you or if I'm being sarcastic or if I'm angry at you, because it just... Now, a little while ago, I remember seeing this article in the newspaper. It was about this professor, lecturer that... Do you know those boarding type schools where they have those really posh British type boarding schools, and they have these residences where all the students live in? Now, he was a lecturer in a subject, but he also was the head of that house. Now, he had a few students that would work as oh, I've forgotten what you call them. Just they were just there to help out as student support for the other students living there. Now, whenever he texted them, he'd give them tasks, but he wouldn't do it in a normal way. He'd do it in quite a demanding way. Every single thing he would write would be in capital letters. He'd put lots of exclamation marks, and it came across as threatening. So, you know, he got into a lot of trouble for that because he wouldn't stop doing it. But when you actually looked at what he was writing, is like you don't quite understand, and then he put the points down, and it would be, if you just done it in normal writing and said you don't quite understand, this is what you need to do. It seems simple, but when you do it in capital with lots of exclamations, you don't quite understand, turns into a like a threat, doesn't it? Can't you get it? So it really don't exclamations. So when you have the word you, it really affects the tone. So when you're saying congratulations or thank you or anything, you should say, you know, your company always provides the best service, or you can say you always provide the best service. But it's just that it's nice. So, but don't ever use, if you're complimenting someone, saying you is good. But if you're giving bad or negative feedback, then you don't say you. So you could have like, your shoddy work produced a bad toaster. That would be bad. but you could just say, my toaster no longer works. Or rather than saying, you dropped that part 5 times, I saw you do it, you would say, I believe that the part may have been dropped a few times. You know, to change the wording.
People get so defensive.
Yeah.
Once you start pointing fingers, yeah. Exactly.
Especially sometimes when you know you might have done something a bit wrong, and then you do sort of like...
Yeah. You're not even ready for that. So you just lie.
So we've got bad communication. So like I just said to you that you might have dropped it. It's the same example of when you're having good way or bad way. Then be brief, purposeful, and have a nice purposeful introduction. So so the first line of what you're talking about in your letter or your email, it should just tell you exactly what the topic is. Now, I remember I went to university and I was a part of this skiing club. I couldn't ski, but, you know, we were there just to go and have a bit of fun. And we had these forums. And on it, because I used to, my majoring at that time, I was doing English and journalism. So I was working for the university's newspaper as well at that time. Now, within that, I remember putting a really long message on about how I thought we'd cover the next skiing games that we're going to be having on, and that if there was any volunteers that wanted their photos taken so they could be put into the school paper. And I must have had like 5 or 6 paragraphs. And I remember getting a reply back saying, and all I had to do was, hi guys, I work for the newspaper at uni. Does anybody want to volunteer to get their photo taken for an article? That's all I need to say. But somebody replied to me saying, you have wasted 10 minutes of my life. There was no need. And I think that really put it into perspective for me, saying, oh, actually, you don't need to ramble on, do I? just be specific. You know,
I was doing my assignment. I was just writing so much. And I was like, the last day, the 7th question, I was like, oh, I can't even do this anymore that much.
Yeah, it's because, you know what? I think you just put too much work on yourself at that time, but you know, it's you, as you do it, you learn and you'll know what's enough. So when you finish this, and this is fantastic for when you're going into uni, because you'll already have got into that, you know, bit of doing assignments, and you know, this is what I should do and this is what I shouldn't.
Yeah, that's what my mom said.
So review your context, make sure that you read back. So when I write something, before I even send an email, I will read through it again just to make sure that my spelling's right, that I've actually put down the information of what I really want to be talking about. And sometimes you might have a person that, so for example, you attend these sessions with me, there's other students on the lessons, but they're unfortunately not able to attend because of their work schedules. Now, I might put something down that you understand, but they don't, so it's best to clarify things because they might not be familiar with it. And again, follow a good news strategy first. Now, this is good for when you're giving feedback to someone. So rather than just saying, oh, that was terrible, don't ever do it again, make it into something called the sandwich approach. So just imagine an Oreo or a biscuit or something like that. So just think that the chocolate base on the top is good news, the cream in the middle is bad news, and then the chocolate at the bottom is good news again. So you do one bit of good news, one bit of bad news, and then you finish it off with good news. So even though you've given somebody, this is called constructive criticism, so even though you've given somebody, told them exactly what went wrong, you've complimented them as well. So an example could be if you were in a meeting and you did a project, I might say to you, Victoria, your project was very well structured at the beginning, well done. And then I might come on and say to you, you veered off topic towards the end of your presentation. So you went off topic, you started talking about something else. So that's the bad news. And then, however, your actual PowerPoint presentation was developed at a very professional standard. So I've given you 2 nice pieces of professional news here and here, but then I've also told you what the issue was that you might have rambled off, or you just went off topic, or you started talking about something else.
Okay.
And there you go. So use a reader-centered strategy also. So make sure that you're putting your information down in a logical pattern. Keep your paragraph short. Try not to be more than about 8 sentences, because it gets a bit much if it's more than 8 sentences. Use your headings, use subheadings, use little tables or images to support it, depending on what you're sending. And then don't just put in words to make it feel longer. If it's short and simple, that's fine, as long as it's understood. 6 is organize your paragraphs logically. So just think of, do you know when we were in school, we did something called chronological order, where you'd go in time order, like what happened first, what happened second, third, fourth, fifth. This is the same way. So start off with a paragraph where you tell you what the subject is and why, what the purpose is. Then go on to the second paragraph. If you've got a problem, then explain the problem. Or if you want something fixed, or you want someone to do something, explain in detail what you want. Then describe how, it is a complaint letter, for example. Describe how this has bothered you. Tell the person who, in your fourth paragraph, who you're writing that email or letter to, what you want them to do. Then the fifth paragraph, thank them for their response. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I really appreciate it. And then in the last section, put down information. And then again, nice and simple, keep your paragraph short. Don't put any extra information. All you're doing is putting more time on yourself and on the person who's going to be reading it. So it's not necessary. And again, use headings, lists, and tables. So if you're giving a lot of detailed information, you might want to split it down. I like this about your assignment quite a lot, actually. And your assignment was really easy to read, because what you did was, rather than go ahead and put everything all in one go into paragraphs, you split everything up for me, and it was such a nice read. You did actually do these, didn't you? You put little subheadings. Yeah. And
I really like for me to read as well.
Exactly. And then you can tick off what you've done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really good way to set out your work. So carry on with that. It was fantastic. So let's go on to number 9. And then again, have a conclusion. Tell your reader what you want, summarize what you want, and then give them your contact information. So this is a section here where it says tell your reader what you want. It's a great way of just summarizing what you talked about. Because if you read a letter that's 5-6 paragraphs long, I might have forgotten at the end of it what I was meant to do. So at the end, just summarize, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and that's it. And then you're done. So, as an overview, pay attention to your tone. Make sure you put down the purpose within your introduction. You tell us exactly what you're talking about. Review your work. If you've got some feedback to give, do it in a nice way. Make sure you actually focus on who your reader is, who you're going to be sending this message to, this letter to, and then make sure that you're putting all the information in that they need. Organize your paragraphs. So have an introduction, write down what it is you're actually talking about, and then summarize it, and then sign off. Keep your paragraph short, so less than 8 lines. So, and then don't, it says 11 point in here, but I like a 12 one. It's easy to read. So try not to go below 11. Do you know when it says font size on the computer? Try not to go below that, because it can get difficult to read. Use headings, lists or tables, and then just put a conclusion in, and that's it. So, to top off, we've just looked at the importance of clear, concise, and complete written communications for organizations. And then we looked at how to prepare clear, concise, and complete written communications. I will turn this off.